Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at a prototype of the game Qwarks Wanted by Smile. It's designed by Gregory Detrez and illustrated by Henri Kermarek. And these people have already made a similar game called Qwarks, which is the predecessor of this game, in this nice little box with very bright artwork. And this is a similar game, and their newest game will be in a similar box as this as well. As I said, this is just a prototype, but it's a game about matching symbols, about pattern recognition, and being fast. You have to select certain cards and hoping they have the most points. And that goes on for a couple of rounds, and the person with the most points in the end wins, of course. So let's set up a game. I'll explain the rules, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. So Qwarks Wanted plays up to 15 minutes for 2 to 6 players. Setting up a game for 3 players here in this example is as follows. You take this Qwarks deck, which has all kinds of Qwarks on it. You shuffle that and you deal each player 2 cards face down on the table. Then you take the Criterium deck, you shuffle that as well, and you flip over 4 of these cards face up, like so. And you take a 5th card, and that is the Forbidden Criterium. You can just put it like this or on top of the deck, wherever you like, as long as it's clear that this is the Forbidden Criterium, and these are the criteria that will get you points. And you also have these chips. I'm using chips, but the final version will have actual tokens with values on them, and some of them will be 1 point and the others will be 4 points. So you just keep that in the box so you can keep track of your score. Alright, so that's basically the whole setup. Let's explain the rules. The goal in the game of Qwarks Wanted is to choose from all of these cards that the players have a card that matches as many of these criteria as possible. So these Qwarks cards will look like this. They will have 3 Qwarks on them, and they can be in several configurations. Basically, they have several features. First of all, they have a color. So the color can either be yellow, green, pink, purple, blue, or red. So there's 6 colors in the game. They can have a smiley face or a frown. They can have a number of eyes between 1 and 5, and a number of tentacles between 1 and 5. So all of these cards have random Qwarks on them, and they are all different. So once you start playing, everybody flips over their cards simultaneously. So you'll have the number of players times 2 of these Qwarks on the table. Then you check them as fast as you can, and you try to find as many of these criteria as you can without having this Forbidden Criterium on the card. Because if you slap a card that has this criteria, then you score no points at all. So let's see, for example, in this game, we count down from 3 to 1 go, and everybody turns over their cards simultaneously, of course. So you check those cards as fast as you can. First, I always check if there's a card with the Forbidden Criterium. So that means a Qwark with exactly 5 eyes. So that's what these cards mean, right? So you have exactly 5 eyes, exactly 3 tentacles on 1 Qwark, exactly 4 eyes on a Qwark, 3 Qwarks with a frown, so this can be 1, 2, or 3 frowns or smiles, and a red Qwark on it. That'll all score you points. So this one has 5 eyes, so that's a Forbidden Criterium. So don't slap that card, because that won't get you any points at all, even if there is a red Qwark on it, or if they're all 3 frowning, or if there's one with 4 eyes or 3 tentacles. That doesn't count anymore because it's forbidden. So that card is out of the question. So of all the other ones, those are all legal ones. So this one, for example, has 3 tentacles. So if I were to slap this card, then I would match this criterion. There won't be any red one. There won't be 3 frowns because this one is smiling. And there's also a quark with 4 eyes on it. So if I were fast enough and I were to slap this card, I have to cover it up completely with my hand, and then I'd have to remember that I was matching these 2 cards. So remember that, because afterwards, after everybody has slapped one of those cards, and you can slap the card of an opponent, that doesn't matter, any of these, then you start revealing from memory which criteria you match. So the person was first, the first person to slap their hand on the table gets to go first, and then you go clockwise. So that person says, okay, I've matched criterias 3 and 4, so we've got one with 4 eyes and I've got one with 3. If there happen to be 2 quarks with one of those criteria on the cards, you still only score that criterion once, because you can only score 1 point per criterion card. So then from memory you have to say, okay, I scored this and this one. So then you reveal and you check to see if it's true. If you left out any criteria, say this card, for example, this one was red, and I didn't remember that, so I didn't call out that I had that criterion as well, then you simply don't get a point for that one. So you check on, you don't have that, but I didn't call that out. I call out these 2 criteria. Well, I do have one with 4 eyes, and I do have one with 3 tentacles, so that's 2 points. I don't have the forbidden criterion, so I can score those 2 points, and I take 2 of these 1 point chips. And then the other players, starting on my left, will do the same. And then you deal out these tokens with the values on them, and you play another round, and you simply take away all of these cards and all of those cards, and you flip over 4 new criterion cards and a 5th forbidden one, and you deal out 2 new quark cards for each player, and you repeat. Now if you called out a criterion that does not match your card, so if you made a mistake, so if you slap this card and you're saying, okay, I think I had the 1st and the 3rd, and one of those was wrong, then you don't score any points at all. And like I said, should you happen to slap a card that has the forbidden criteria on it, you also do not score points at all. The game ends when one of the players has at least 10 points. So then you count up all of the players' points, and the player with the most points wins, of course, and if you have a tie, you simply share the victory. Now there's also an advanced version of the game where you have to remember an additional thing to score points with, and that means that some of these cards, they call them protons or neutrons. And a proton is a card that has 2 quarks with tentacles, with any amount of tentacles, and 1 without. And a neutron is a card where only 1 quark has tentacles and the other 2 don't. So 3 with tentacles or 3 without don't count. It's only, so this would be a proton, this would be a neutron, proton, 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 proton. So if you manage to remember that as well, then you can score extra points. But if you make a mistake and you say my card is a proton and it's not, then you don't score any points at all. So that's a bit of more of a challenge if you've played this and you think I need a bit more of a challenge, I need to sharpen my memory, then that's something you can do. And there is also, what I really like about this game, there is also a color-blind version where you simply leave out all the criterion cards that have a color on them. So if you find any of those, you just take them out of the game, and then you can play a color-blind version of the game with just the other criteria. There is another variant to play this game called Qwarks Wanted Junior, which is geared to younger players. And it also plays 2 to 6 players. In this case, I set up a 4-player game. And what you do is you take all the quark cards, you shuffle them, and you deal them out equally to all the players until there's no more cards left. And if there are some cards left that you can't deal out anymore, you just put those aside. You also put the criterion cards aside because you're not using them. Then you count down to 3, and all the players simultaneously flip over the top card of their deck. And what you want to do is, as quick as possible, look at all 4 the criteria which are now on the back of your card over here. So these 4 icons here are basically your next criteria to choose these cards from. And what you're trying to do is to score points by matching quarks of the same configuration and color which are worth 2 points. So this quark is over here. This is worth 2 points. And if you happen to find a similar quark but in a different color, then that's worth 1 point. And obviously the rest is worth no points at all. So this card, for example, would be worth 2 points because it matches this one 100%. And it also matches this one over here, but it's in a different color, so that's 1 point. So this entire card is 3 points. This card, for example, doesn't have any matching quarks, so it's 0 points, basically useless to slap your hand on that one. This one is worth 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. They all match, but they're in different color. And this one has a matching quark over here for 1 point. This one is not there, and this one is also 2 points. This is also a 3-point card. So then all the players, as quick as they can, they slap their hands on the cards, and they pick the card that they chose. So maybe this player took that card, and this one is left, because there is no matching quark on it. So then you take your chips with the points you scored, and basically you just leave the cards that aren't slapped in the middle of the table, increasing your chances to get a good card next turn. And then you count down to 3 again. All the players flip over their next card, and then of course the next card from their stack shows a new criterion to choose from. And again, you try to match as many quarks as possible, and that goes on until all the players only have 2 cards left in their deck. And then obviously you're going to turn over your final card, because this card will be the final criterion, and that's the last round. And you take all the cards that you managed to get, and you count up all the points, and the player with the most points wins the game. So my final thoughts on Qwarks Wanted by Gregory Detrez. I'll start with the artwork. I really like the bright colors, the artwork. There is no confusion as to what is on the cards. The colors are very clear. The number of tentacles and the number of eyes are pretty clear as well. And it's, you know, that's necessary because you need to be fast and spot what you need to pick from these criteria. And these cards are very clear as well. There is really no confusion as what you need to get. And it's really a game of speed and reflexes, you know, checking all the criteria and seeing which card has the most of those criteria and the most points. So the artwork is very nice. I also like the backs of the cards, very bright. So that's a good point. I think the production quality, this is of course a prototype, but these cards are already very well made. So if the final product is at least the same quality as this, and that is very good, so that's perfect as well. It comes in a tiny package, probably a package more like this one, so it'll be slightly bigger, but it'll have tokens, etc. as well, and this prototype just had the cards. So that's a nice and compact little traveling size, so it won't take much space on your shelves or in your drawers, so that is good. And the gameplay itself, well, if you like games like Jungle Speed, where it's based on reflexes and pattern recognition, then you probably like this game as well. It's a fast game. It's just basically a really fun, quick little game. And if you like that sort of games, then this is certainly something that I would check out. So that is on Kickstarter right now. I'll put the link in the description below. So be sure to check that out. I enjoyed this game. I'm giving it a thumbs up. So that was Qwarks Wanted by Gregory Detrez of Smile. So go check that out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.